It began on a quiet morning in a small American town, the kind of morning that feels ordinary, but hides the kind of secret that will change a life forever. In a room filled with polished wood and the sharp scent of legal paper, Rachel Bennett sat with her relatives as her grandfather's will was read. She had tried not to expect much, but even her low expectations could not blunt the cruelty of the words. "To my granddaughter Rachel, I leave $1. Laughter erupted around the table, harsh and mocking, as millions in assets were divided among her cousins. Her grandfather, the man who once taught her to ride a bike and guided her hand across books in the library, had reduced her legacy to a single coin. The attorney, Graham Pierce, pressed the commemorative dollar with Elias Bennett's initials into her hand with an inscrutable look. "That is it," he murmured, but then added a phrase that she did not understand at the time. "For now." Humiliation still clung to her like a second skin when she returned to her job at the Magnolia Diner. 3 days later, fluorescent lights buzzed above her head, coffee pots hissed, and she moved with mechanical precision through her shift, the coin heavy in her apron pocket like a wound that would not close. She needed to pull herself together for the custody hearing that loomed that week, a battle that already felt lost. True, her ex-husband with his six-figure income, his polished lawyer, and his suburban house had every advantage. Rachel had only her aching devotion to her children, a waitressing salary, and a one-bedroom apartment with a sofa bed. When her attorney read the evaluator's report that painted her as unstable and limited, her throat had burned with shame. That day in the courtroom, Judge Klein awarded Drew primary custody, granting Rachel only 2 weekends a month and 1 midweek dinner. 6 days a month with her children, 6 fragile days to hold on to her role as their mother. As she stumbled down the courthouse steps in the rain, broken by yet another defeat, Graham Pierce appeared again. He offered her an umbrella, spoke with sympathy that sounded too knowing, and told her that her inheritance was not complete. That dollar was more than it appeared, he said, and asked her for 2 hours of her time the next day. Bitter and exhausted though she was, Rachel agreed. It could not possibly matter, she thought. But she was wrong. The sleek black car carried her deep into Hawthorne County, far from the clatter of city streets. The rain lifted, and the world outside the window softened into rolling green hills and forests dripping with silver light. At a ridge, Graham stopped the car and gestured toward the valley below. Rachel leaned forward, eyes straining, until she finally saw it. Structures hidden among the trees, glinting solar panels, winding footpaths, gardens that spread in green squares. Hawthorne Haven, he called it. Her inheritance. At the gate stood an iron arch and a coin-sized indentation in the entry panel. Graham pressed the dollar into it. The gate opened as if the land itself had been waiting only for her. Hawthorne Haven was unlike anything she had imagined. It was a living community. More than 60 micro-homes built from sustainable materials, powered by a river dam, tended by people who moved with purpose and hospitality. They greeted her as if her arrival had been long expected. A woman named Miriam Clay, once a medic haunted by the scars of war, welcomed her with warmth. Jonah Rez, an engineer who managed the power systems, despite walking with crutches, extended his skilled hand. A journalist on assignment captured wildlife restoration efforts while children darted across pathways between food gardens and classrooms. Everything breathed with harmony and intention. Then Graham gave her the letter. In her grandfather's familiar hand it confirmed what had seemed impossible. The coin was the key to Hawthorne Haven, the place Elias Bennett had spent 15 years quietly building. Inspired by the vision of a child's school project, she once created a perfect town in harmony with nature. He had dismissed his other heirs with wealth, but to Rachel, his true heir in spirit, he left a legacy of community, sustainability, and responsibility. With the dollar, she had become trustee of this hidden haven. At first, Rachel could barely stand under the weight of it all. But Graham explained that the trust included a stipend of $15,000 a month, health care, education funds for her children, and housing. For the first time in years, she could imagine standing before a judge without shame. The promise of reclaiming her children was enough to ignite her, and soon her weekends of supervised visitation became journeys to Hawthorne Haven. At first, Soren and Eloin were skeptical. Her son spoke his father's words about communes and uncertainty, while her daughter clung shyly to her. That the valley had its own way of working on people. Soren discovered drones and engineering puzzles with Jonah. Eloin found friendship, games, and gentle gardens where butterflies floated. For the first time since the divorce, Rachel saw them smile without reserve. But Victor Bennett, her cousin and head of Tridine Minerals, was already circling like a vulture. He called her with a $5 million offer to sell the land. He knew about her custody struggles. He knew about the financial disadvantages. He knew he could tempt her, but he had underestimated her. She refused. That refusal brought retaliation. Soon Tridine men appeared near the dam, tampering in secret, their tools slick in the rain. Then came the storm, the block spillway, the rising water, and the terrifying evacuation. Rachel had to wade through floodwaters to save children from drowning, her daughter's friend clinging to her back as torrents nearly swept them away. The community survived, battered but unbroken, and drone footage revealed the truth. Tridine had sabotaged the spillway deliberately. Graham filed injunctions, Zuri's photographs were published nationally, and Rachel stood before the people of Hawthorne Haven no longer as a waitress clutching a coin, but as a leader who would not let Victor Hawthorne destroy them. Then beneath the dam, a secret was uncovered. Hidden chambers built like puzzles only she could solve with the coin. Inside were deeds proving her family's mineral rights, a fortune in treasury bonds grown to more than $160 million, and evidence collected over decades of Tridine's crimes: illegal dumping, fraud, conspiracies, all prepared by Elias, as if he had seen this very battle coming. There was even a cryptocurrency investment worth tens of millions more. Her grandfather had not abandoned her, he had prepared her. When the custody hearing returned, Rachel was no longer a struggling waitress. She was the trustee of a sustainable haven, financially stable, the protector of a thriving community, and the guardian of her children's future. True. Confronted by the evidence of Victor's sabotage and inspired by his children's happiness at Hawthorne Haven, softened. Instead of fighting her, he conceded that their best interests now lay with her. And Judge Klein granted Rachel primary custody. In the weeks that followed, Hawthorne Haven rebuilt stronger than before. Volunteers from across the state arrived, drawn by the headlines of resilience and corruption exposed. The Haven Trust was born, dedicated to replicating the model across the country. Rachel's children moved freely between school and the valley, blossoming in ways she had only dreamed of. Her son stood at the dam with engineers, his drones becoming vital tools. Her daughter planted gardens that drew hummingbirds. The community grew, not just in numbers, but in spirit. On the day of Hawthorne Haven's rebirth ceremony, lanterns glowed over the meadow, music filled the valley, and Rachel's children stood at the podium thanking her in front of all. They spoke of courage, of community, of what it means to build something worth defending. Rachel pressed the dollar coin into a frame, where it would hang above the community center forever, the catalyst for everything they had rebuilt. As she looked out over the faces of those who now stood with her, over her children glowing with pride, she whispered her thanks to Elias for believing in her when no one else did. From a single dollar came a haven, a legacy, and a future. From rejection came redemption. From a coin that seemed worthless was born a world. And Rachel Bennett, once dismissed as a failure, now stood not only as a mother who had reclaimed her children, but as the guardian of a legacy that would outlast them all.